Good morning and happy Thursday, guys. Welcome in here to PuckTime, powered by WagerTalk. I am Andrew, and I've got Carmine and Bryan with me here today on this Thursday. We're going to break down a few games for you, kind of talk about a few promotional stuff we have going on, and get to best bets at the end of the show. Look forward to jumping into the Knights, Bruins, Islanders, Red Wings, and the nightcap with the LA Kings and the Vancouver Canucks. Carm, we'll start with you, man. How you feeling today on this Thursday? And what are your thoughts on the Vegas Golden Knights and Boston Bruins?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. 3-1 night for me in the NHL last night, but a small profit on the night overall. There were varying plays, 3%, 2%, but 3-1 tells me I'm moving again in the right direction, and that's all that really matters. A 2-1 night the night before. I'm just going to keep on trying to win for clients and for myself too in my bankroll. And Andrew, before we get into this Vegas Golden Knights Boston game, I got to congratulate you. A 5% winner yesterday on the Rangers team total. I was at a friend's house. We're playing poker, a cash game, and I had him put up the game for me on the TV. Unfortunately, Prez was there too, but he wasn't even watching the game. So he was playing poker. And I just thought to myself, this is going to somehow get there. I thought it would get there. And when Columbus pulled their goalie, I thought to myself, the Rangers score this quick enough at 3-1, their Columbus is going to pull their goalie again. And there's miracles can be had. We lose plays when we get the puck luck goes against us. And Bryan talks about puck luck as well too. And we'll talk to him shortly. But getting puck luck in your favor is always a good one. So it doesn't matter how it gets there, it got there. And that's all that matters. So congratulations to you on that play. Now, this game, this Boston and Vegas game, listen, this is a play that I actually have up as a small client play. It's a 2% one. It would have been higher if I could have got a better price on the Bruins. But I think I'm priced out on making it any higher because 160 seems to be about as high as I really want to go on the Bruins in this spot. Vegas caught the Leafs in a bad spot. Leafs on a 7-game win streak, returning home off a successful road trip and having as well. We talk about that revenge factor. And I know we talked about on yesterday's show, and people say, revenge, it's so stupid. The Leafs went into Vegas and literally stomped on the Golden Knights in that game, beat them, 7-3. And Vegas returned the favor, missing some of their scoring. They returned the favor. They scored in the final 31 minutes of that game that was scoreless. They scored 6 goals and beat the Leafs 6-2, a 4-goal win. Can they do that in Boston? No, I don't think so. I think the Bruins are a very good team that have gone through a little bit of regression, but they're back home and just going into the Garden and beating this team when you don't have the full complement of your offense is a tough thing. You really have to play one of those defensive type, playoff type hockey games, and that's what the Golden Knights would have to do. And it should be Aiden Hill in goal. It should be Allmark in goal. I just think that the price is high. I will not discount. I think this price is high. But at 160, I was comfortable with the 2% play for clients, and I'm going to go with the Bruins here. We're going to talk to Mr. Vegas himself, Brian Leonard. You can talk about puck luck if you want, and you can also talk to us about this Vegas Golden Knights and Boston game. Welcome to Thursday's show. Love having you on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a good day for a lot of us yesterday that had the big plays. I believe, from what I could tell, just about everybody won their 5%. I had my first 5% in college basketball at Xavier yesterday. At one point early, well, it was getting kind of late in the second half or first half. They were only up by 4, laying 19.5, and then they just whipped them the rest of the way. Great coach, great quotes coming out yesterday on the coach really firing up his team. And if you can get that kind of thing against a team that you know you can beat, that's my favorite handicapping angle. But yeah, you mentioned the Vegas Golden Knights. I always look for a reason to play the underdog. The luck factor in hockey is so high that you could find teams. Well, look at the Arizona and Toronto over the years. The last few years, Arizona's had their number. But but you always look for spots in that regard. But I could not see Vegas with the lineup they had going into Toronto and winning that game. That was a shocker to me. It was a shocker to a lot of us out here in Vegas, the way the Golden Knights have been playing. But they still have injuries. Eichel did make the trip, but he is not going to play tonight. That's the latest. He will not play, but we will see. He's a big boost to that offense. But when you take a look at the series, Boston's won 5 of the 8 meetings. None of those games had total goals scored more than 7. So it's been more of a defensive series in the history here. Boston's 4-1 playing at home versus the Golden Knights, with the lone loss coming in that earlier meeting, as you talked about. Neither team is really playing well right now. They're not at the top of the game. Boston 3-2-5 run. Vegas 4-5-1. That's over the last 10 games. Boston does have an expected goal share of 51.52, but when you take a look at the other stats, neither team is performing well. They're not dominating play. I prefer the Boston side here. I think it's the right side. I'm hoping to get a better number here. I don't want to lay what it is right now. If we get something maybe 10 cents lower, I'll have a play on Boston. You have to know. You just can't blindly play a game. You need to know what your parameters are. And Boston right now is just not quite there for me. But that's the team I like in this one.
Brian, I want to follow up on a couple things with you with regards to this game, and then with regards to something else, just talking about a little bit about analytics. Now, I see some comments, and Washington, the Redskin is in there. He's like, I'm not taking the Bruins again. And I get it, because we put up a chart yesterday provided by Stat Daddy Ralph Michaels, and it shows since the All-Star break, the Bruins are 3-8. They've won 27% of their games with an average line of 157.8. So basically 160, which is what they're laying here. And if you flat bet $100 on them, you are down $1,044 since the All-Star break, and $961 on the season. So they were profitable going into the All-Star break, slightly profitable, not profitable coming out of it. And it has to do with the price. We talked about laying certain prices on the Bruins, but the Bruins are unlike, the way I look at this, I get it. It's a terrible start out of the All-Star break for them. But the Bruins are unlike a team like Arizona, who's lost 13 in a row. Some of these teams on these losing streaks, because the Bruins have quality in that team. And at some point, they're going to start to turn it around. Would you wait until they start to turn it around, or say to yourself, this is a good price, I like it, and the Bruins are a quality side, and I want to get on this team because they're going to start to win some games?
That's the way you have to take a look at it. I had a friend when I was starting out in the industry, and if he'd lost on a team, he says, that they're on my list. I can't play them. Well, after 2 weeks, he didn't have any more teams to bet on, because he had lost in bad fortune on just about everybody. But yeah, it's the best time to play them. I mean, from a player standpoint, you want to play better off of a loss than you do off of a win. I'm not one of those guys that I don't try to stand in front of a moving train, but you get better prices in that regard, and I think that's what you want to take a look at. You say to yourself, if this game was being played 10 times, even though that team won that one time, does not mean they're going to win the others. It's just every game's totally different, and you have to take it from a price standpoint, and you look for the motivation. And I always try to look at motivation for teams that have quality players that have not played well, and that's what we're getting out of Boston. Vegas, very similar. Vegas has been good on the road. Boston, great for years at home. But I'm not looking to play the team that's won 16 straight games. I'm looking to play the team that is a good team that maybe has lost 3 or 4 and needs to reset. That's what I look for when I'm betting on sports.
All right, and one final question for you. I try and get into our, whether it's the live chat or in our comment section when the video is up, and respond to some of the people who have questions. And every once in a while, someone will throw something at me. And listen, I try and be as polite as possible, because I love all the Pucksters tuning in. But one guy is like, how can you say the Edmonton Oilers are playing good D when they allowed over 30 shots against the LA Kings. It's a game in which Vegas won 4-2. And then the other comment was that the St. Louis Blues, in the second of back-to-backs, are high scoring. Their games are going over. They're high scoring. And I simply explained that shot quantity does not equal shot quality. You can have 40 plus shots on goal, and the high danger chances within those weren't very good because they're shots from the point, shots from the outside of the offensive circles. I think it's very important to look at different analytics with regards to that. It's not just shots. You can see a team that has like 45 shots and they only scored 2 goals. It wasn't that they were unlucky. They probably weren't high quality chances. And then to the point of the St. Louis Blues is for those 7 games that they played, the second of a back-to-back went under the total. And even though there was 6.39 average goals scored in their 7 games on back-to-backs, 18 of them were in 2 games against the Montreal Canadiens. The free space on the bingo card, I know Andrew's going to burn me right now on that one. When you look at analytics, does shots on goal matter to you, or are the other aspects of the game more important?
Well, I would prefer my team having more shots on goal because that means they got more times to score. But I've had games in which my team has dominated. I think I had a game where they were out shooting the opposition 66-18 or something. It was just the biggest blowout I've ever seen in my life. And with like 5 minutes left in the game, it was tied 0-0. You're going to get that kind of thing. Yes, there's certain days. Well, I would look at the scores because of that, and I would look at the shots on goal. And the teams that had more shots on goal had a losing record that day. You're right. It's more than shots on goal. It's the opportunities to score. Even when you're watching the games, you see guys take shots. You're like, there's no way in hell that's going in. But they're trying to get a bounce. They're trying to get it where the goalie can't hold on to it. And you get a good bounce, and maybe somebody else could put it in. But yeah, shots on goal would not be the first thing I look at there. It does make a difference, but it's not that important, at least for hockey betting, at least in my opinion.
All right. Appreciate you jumping on that. Andrew, I'm going back to you. I'm using up all of your time here. You won with one original 6 team yesterday. You're looking at another original 6 team tonight?
I am. I'm on the same page as you guys are, but I think what I'm going to do is jump in on the team total. However, you guys know I've been betting a lot of team total overs. Not this time. It'll be a team total under on the other side with the Golden Knights team total under 2.5 goals at a minus 120 price here. That way, the Bruins, I think they're going to win the game. Not sure how they'll win it, whether it's low scoring or whether they can put up 4 or 5 on the board. We'll find out. But when it comes down to it, Brian mentioned the surprise about that performance against Toronto. And I'm not going to just say that Vegas didn't play well, but it was also your typical Toronto Maple Leafs flat spot on a weekday. I mean, that's just how they roll, and they come off a good road trip, come back at home. Their home crowd's excited to see them, as Carm was mentioning earlier in the week on the show, and then that's the performance that they put forward. Also, is rapid revenge. Like, I'm not a really big revenge guy, but I do like the rapid revenge. If it's within a week, it means something. You saw it happen last night with New York and Columbus. So, look, that Vegas lineup still is a little bit of a head scratcher. And sometimes when key players go out, whether it's football, basketball, or hockey, you saw what happened with Morgan Riley for the Leafs. When key players are out, teams rally around them. But I think against this Boston Bruins team that does play a pretty good defensive brand of hockey, right now they're struggling to score more than they're actually struggling to play defense. They're still playing some pretty good defense. And despite some injuries they've dealt with, I have a feeling they're going to be back at home at TD Garden and at actually a place where they play some of their best defense. If you're looking to bet overs, I think you want to look more towards road games for the Bruins. Not recently, but I think overall this Bruins team does a really good job of locking things down at home and defending their own side of the ice. So I'm going to rock with the team total under 2.5 for the Vegas Golden Knights at TD Garden. Guys, 9 straight games for the Boston Bruins that they've played in where they have yet to get a regulation victory. So we'll see if tonight is the night. I do lean towards that direction as well, but this has been a team that's been cashing a lot of overtime props for bettors. But I think tonight's the night where they'll get back on track. Head coach Montgomery mentioned that they didn't have one practice while they were on the road. I watched a mini documentary one time, and they mentioned that each team's travel coordinator is supposed to plan with the other team's travel coordinator to let them know when they can get practice times in. Well, it sounds like the Boston Bruins didn't get any practices in when they were on the west coast of Canada. So obviously they've been back. They've been at their practice facility. They've been able to get some practice in, and now they're ready for this matchup. So I think defense is the key for this team, and I'll look towards the team total under for this matchup here. Keeping things moving onto the next game. Before we do that, though, I do want to mention some of the great deals we have going right now at WagerTalk.com. We've got a 29% off deal going right now at the website. It's leap year. It's not often you see a February 29th here. So you've got 29% off an all-access pass with your favorite handicapper, 3 days or longer. 29% off the upcoming MLB season at an already discounted price. 29% off the remaining NBA or NHL season. You can take advantage of that today only or for the next 29 hours. A great, great, great deal for anybody interested. And we always try and be creative here at Wager Talk with some of these deals, as you guys all know. And I feel like this is a pretty cool one. So 29%, not 25, not 30, but 29% off discounted rate here. Also, of course, we have that great March Madness special. Mr. Bryan Leonard off a huge win yesterday in college basketball. So we've got a great deal here, under $23 per week. And I'll tell you what, I am excited for March Madness. It's always fun to watch and bet on. This package will include 5% best bets, anything in the NIT and CBI tournament as well. And you'll get every single play release sent right to your email. So guys, take advantage. But I think the best deal right now is that 29% off one. I mean, if you want a handicapper right now, you want to jump in on a sport with them, probably a good time to do it today. Bryan, over to you with the Red Wings hosting the New York Islanders. You know, is it time for us to show some consistent love to this Red Wings team? It seems like they're just, they love flying under the radar right now. They're embracing it. That I haven't really seen many hockey media outlets giving this team love, but I know one guy giving them love, and that's Johnny Detroit. All over Facebook, I'm seeing him getting excited about the Red Wings. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, this is going to be my best bet on the show, so I'll be very brief in my talk about it. But you've got the Islanders team, who I haven't been very high on this year. They've been somewhat disappointing. They're playing a Detroit team who's playing really well right now, and they're playing at home. And the first hits that come in on this game on the betting board drop it down as they're betting the New York Islanders. I did not understand that whatsoever. I went back and I looked and tried to figure out if there was a goal change or what it was, but I could not understand why the Islanders were taking money. And I still don't see it, because if you take a look at the way these two teams have played, Detroit's a better team. They're playing better ball right now. They're playing better hockey. And this line is something that's a little strange to me. So I'll get back to this when I get to my best bet. But I do want to say that this is a game here where just about anybody who plays streaks, and I just talked about streaks, would want to play Detroit playing at home here. And they're giving you a good opportunity at this number to do so.
Well, when you look at the price here, sorry, Bryan, I didn't realize that you kind of came to a sudden stop there. Yeah, when you look at the price here on this one, Carm, you kind of scratch your head and you think, you know, should I just go ahead and ride the hot hand? But this Islanders team, Carm, would you say that they've been the only team that's fired their head coach this season that haven't really built from that? The coach firing hasn't really done much for this team. Would you agree with that?
It definitely hasn't done what it did for Minnesota at the time, the Edmonton Oilers at the time. I don't get it. I don't get this line either. I'll be honest with you. I feel the same as Bryan. It opened at like 125, I think, last night. When I was on my way out the door, I'm looking at some of the numbers, and I looked at some of the analytics, and then um, I looked at it again this morning. I'm like 115, and I did the same thing. I started to look through the team message boards, looking at any injuries that there might be. I just don't get the drop. I get it. The Rangers, sorry, the Islanders win their last game in Dallas. It's against the Dallas team that's also struggling right now. You look at the Dallas, you look at that game. They beat Dallas 3-2 in OT, and you look at, like, you know, they go into Dallas and beat Dallas. Well, Dallas is struggling right now, and even Dallas in themselves, to go off on a bit of a tangent, they are. You look at they're either very good or very bad. You look at two games against very good defensive teams in the Bruins and the New York Rangers, and they had 46 and 42 shots on goal in those games, and both losses. So again, lots of shots doesn't equate to victories. And then they play Ottawa and Carolina, and they manage 15 and 16 shots, and they split those two games. You wouldn't expect that from a Dallas team, getting 15 shots in one game and 16 in another, but that's what they did. The Islanders go in there and somehow get that game to overtime, pick up what they believe is a valuable point for them to try and make the playoffs. And now they're going to Detroit, and it's 115. You would think if you wanted to take the Islanders, you would be getting at least plus 125 in this game. You'd be getting some good odds. I'm confused by this line. I'm not going to lie. And it's almost to the point where it wants to get me off this play. But if the books are asking for Detroit money, they're probably going to get some from me tonight, because this team is playing extremely well right now. You can make a case, and Andrew, we talk about all the time. You can make a case of, you look at Detroit's last 6 games, and I'm going to go over their 6 games and make excuses. And these are just excuses. They play the Washington Capitals. Capitals come off of 3 very good outings, but they lost a couple of them. Detroit jumped on them early and put them away. They played the Blackhawks. They should be beating the Blackhawks. They beat the St. Louis Blues in Detroit. They should be beating the St. Louis Blues. They beat Colorado, who went from East Coast to West Coast, played the Leafs, and came back and played 1 game on the East Coast, travel. These are all excuses. Okay, there is nothing behind this but excuses. They beat the Seattle Kraken, who they probably should beat. They beat the Calgary Flames, who they should beat. Those are their 6 games. These are all excuses. You can't put that into your betting at all. I am explaining to you that people are looking at him and saying, how can you, maybe Detroit's record on this 6-game win streak is a soft one, despite going 6-0. No, this is a good Detroit team. Right from Alex Lyon in goal, who's playing extremely well, right up to the forwards. This is a very good team, and they're in a playoff spot right now. Minus 115. The books are sucking us in. I'm going to get sucked into this, Andrew. I'm taking the Detroit Red Wings tonight.
I don't blame you with how they're playing right now. They're a team that's on a mission, and they're playing consistent, backed by good goaltending. Alex Lyon, it seems like no matter where he goes, he's just the unsung hero for a team. What happened last year with Florida, now doing the same here with the Red Wings here, guys. I'll just mention really quick, don't love this game personally, but I have a lean towards the under here. This Islanders team, despite not having much success lately, they haven't really been up high as far as their expected goals against. They've been playing some decent defense, haven't been getting much goal production themselves. And I know they've had some bad games defensively, but overall, this Detroit team as well, they're scoring, no doubt about that. But they're also finally seeing some consistent goaltending out of their team, staying out of the penalty box, which has certainly helped them out quite a bit. So I'm going to rock with the under 6.5 here, guys. I mean, you look at some of the games that have gone over the total for this Detroit team, it's had nothing to do with their opponent and everything to do with themselves pushing the total over. 8 goals for themselves against Washington, 5 goals for themselves against Calgary, and that game still goes under. 6 goals against St. Louis, but they only gave up 1 goal. To me, if we could even see a little bit of some fight inside the New York Islanders as far as their defensive abilities, We're seeing 6.5, which besides the rare sevens, it's the highest total we're going to get. Small lean to the under on this one for me, Carm.
Uh, yeah, I see it. I just put in the chat because someone said, with Sorokin in goal, would you look at the under, or when I take the under? Sorokin, I mentioned it before. His goals against average on the road, I think, is at 3.46. That was going into the last game, I think, prior to playing Dallas. His overall goals against average is much lower, which means he's much better at home than he is on the road. And to our Detroit staff, if you're watching this, I think I'm coming out next month to watch a game. I'm probably going to come to maybe the March, I think it's 16th or 17th game. The Buffalo Sabres are in town, so I may come and watch and take you guys out to the Detroit Red Wings Buffalo Sabres game. Andrew, I'm not throwing an octopus onto the ice if Detroit scores or wins. I'm Italian. I'm gonna bring some fried calamari rings and just like flip them out like little frisbees onto the ice while consuming some of them. I can't throw that fresh stuff on there. I don't even know you sneak in an octopus into a game. Brian, do you have any idea?
I don't mind the throwing of the octopus. I don't want to be the guy that has to wear it down my pants through the entire game, just hoping to be able to throw it. That's beyond me why people do that.
Imagine if they get shut out. Imagine if they don't score. Have you guys ever heard of the teddy bear tosses in the AHL and the junior hockey? So I've been to a few games with that, and it's like the most anticlimactic thing ever. If the home team doesn't score a goal, they just do it at the end of the game. So like you're waiting the entire game. Everybody's on the edge of their seat to throw the teddy bears, and the team just never even ends up scoring a goal. So they just had to do it, after they just lost 4-0. But that would be to sit there with an octopus in your hand. It would be pretty rough, but not good.
Andrew, my favorite will always be, and so for some of you guys that are young, you might not remember this. Some of the guys are a little bit older, but the Florida Panthers, the rats. I used to love those plastic rats, and they just littered the ice. It was unbelievable how many of those plastic rats getting thrown onto the ice in those Florida Panther playoff games. So those were good. As far as the Leafs go, it's actually pretty funny. They tried to ban a couple of fans because when the Leafs weren't doing well in the playoffs or whatever, some guys came to the game and threw blue frozen waffles onto the ice. Blue frozen waffles. They dye-colored them or whatever and threw them onto the ice. And they found the guys, I think, that threw them and banned them from ever coming to another game again. I guess they probably were thinking the Leafs waffled and just didn't play well, but that's a story for another day. Maybe next Tuesday when the Prez is on another episode of Puck Time.
I couldn't imagine being banned from somewhere like that forever. Like you must hate hockey, really. I mean, you must. I don't know. Like the guy that I'm sure you guys heard about the guy with the Super Bowl, right? That he went streaking so he could win his bet. That might be the dumbest thing in the world because he just compromised his bet. Like especially tweeting it out or people finding out who he is. Like, I don't know. There has to be some type of insider trading type of comparison there where he was the streaker. I don't know. I feel like that was really stupid, but I couldn't imagine ever getting yourself banned from a sport place. As much as I love going to games, I would not want to get banned from an arena. But speaking of banned, this Vancouver Canucks team, their fans might ban them from showing up at home again, Carm, if they don't get back on track because they have been playing some good hockey this season. But as you mentioned yesterday, and we talked about with that chart that Ralph gave us, we're seeing the minus 150 tonight against the LA Kings that have just been driving me nuts all season long as well. They have lost 3 of the last 4 games here. Vancouver, they've lost 5 of their last 6, I believe, here. Which team do you think comes out on
no finish? And the Kings play better when they're ahead in games. Obviously, a lot of teams do, but the Kings especially do. And they just couldn't do it against Calgary. They couldn't do it against Edmonton. Now they get a Vancouver team, and they can save a little bit of face on this road trip because this Canucks team is literally a third period comeback against the Bruins away from, if they didn't do that, they would be on a 6-game losing streak right now. They picked up 3 points in their last 6 games, 3 of a possible 12 points. It's a little bit of regression, because if you watch the Vancouver games and you've watched that one against Pittsburgh, that was a game in which, in all honesty, neither team should have lost that game, but somebody has to lose. Both teams played extremely well. The Pittsburgh power play started to look like it's finally starting to come around. And Prez and I talked about that last night as well, too, that the Penguins power play is starting to look a lot better. How long does this bit of regression go for Vancouver? I'm not entirely sure. I just think at this moment that maybe the Kings are a live dog. I don't want to lay money in this game, which has me now flipping from wanting to lay 140 on Vancouver to taking plus 120 with the LA Kings, because I always believe that if you can play defense and play defense first, and then try and get some offense going, that is the way to get out of a losing streak. And I think the Kings are the type of team with one of the better defensive records in the Western Conference that can do that. So we will see. It's 2 teams that are struggling right now, but I'm going to go with the LA Kings. I'm going to take the plus money in this spot. Brian, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, getting back to the streaking situation, I was around in the 70s. Streaking, you were naked. Why is that guy even considered a streaker? He had sweatpants on or something. Streaking is naked, and Carmine, you know that too, because you're in the same age group as I am. But
I would, Brian, before you get into this game, if it was me streaking, I would make money out of it, not that way. I would do like they used to do in the old days, where they had the logo for Golden Palace Casino on them. So anytime, if you guys remember, and Andrew, you're too young for this, Golden Palace Casino used to pay people, give them money to, like, with a dark coloring or whatever, put Golden Palace Casino, and they run across the field and they're naked and their image is caught. If it was on their back, the same thing. They go into boxing rings. They would do anything with that Golden Palace Casino to get the advertising out there. It was absolutely insane. Can you imagine FanDuel doing that right now, or DK DraftKings sending a guy streaking across the ice at not Maple Leaf Gardens, at Scotiabank Arena with the FanDuel? It might be the most exciting thing that happens on the ice during the playoffs for the Leafs anyways. But Brian, give us your thoughts on the LA Kings and Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, I'm glad you put this one on the schedule, because I think this is a really good game to analyze. If you look at the last 10 games, 5-on-5 play for both these teams, they both have solid expected goal numbers. LA 53.13, Vancouver 54.16. While the Canucks have a goal share of 54.35, the Kings have actually underperformed. 41.94 goal share percentage the last 10 games, which is why they haven't been able to win these games. But they played pretty well. The Kings have fared well on the road, 18-9-4 on the season, while Vancouver's been excellent at home at 25-3. LA's playing the 3rd game of a 3-game road trip off back-to-back 4-2 losses at Edmonton and Calgary. Vancouver's struggling really for the first time all season, dropped 5 of 6, the lone victory coming in that overtime against the Bruins. Surprisingly, this is the first meeting of the season between these divisional rivals. That's something you don't usually see this late in the season. Really interesting schedule coming up for Vancouver. After this game, they head to the road for 3 games. Anaheim, a rematch with Kings here, and then they go to Vegas. Then after that, they are at home for the entire month of March. Right now, Vancouver has about a 10-point lead over Vegas and Edmonton, and a little bit more over Los Angeles, but they could put this division away in no time with all these home games they've had. When you take a look at the way these teams have played, the last 8 games between these two have resulted in total goals of 3, 5, 5, 5, 5, 3, 4, and 5. I think this is going to be a playoff type atmosphere here, because Vancouver's not playing well. LA knows they need to make the move. I like this game to go under the total. History shows it, and I think that's the way this game is going to be played. We're going to play the under here between LA and Vancouver.
All right, Brian, looking towards the under in this game, and you guys can find Brian on X at B Leonard Sports. Of course, all his NHL plays, college basketball, NBA plays over at WagerTalk.com. For me, Brian, like looking at this game, I get that. I get that read, and I think that this is one of those games that they need to put forward a good defensive effort. But one thing I'll say I've noticed recently out of this Vancouver team, number one, all season long, they were at the top of the league in shooting percentage. All season long, they were top 3 in goals saved above expected with their goaltending, with Thatcher Demko. And all of a sudden, the last 10 or so days, we're seeing that shooting percentage dry up when they're only getting 24, 23 shots, and they're not scoring on those. And then there's kind of some not so nice goals being scored on them, giving up 10 to Minnesota, 5 to Seattle, 4 to Pitt, 4 to Winnipeg, and all of a sudden this team that was once just an absolute defensive masterclass with a Vezina caliber goaltender has slipped. But when your team starts to slip like that a little bit defensively, a little bit goaltending wise, your offense has to be there to pick you up. And they just weren't, obviously that game was absolutely nuts with Minnesota and Vancouver, like 10-7. That was crazy. But overall, I'm seeing this team struggle a little bit to find the back of the net. So I think that, as you mentioned, Brian, they can get it together more on defense than they can offensively right now. I'm right there with you on the under. And looking at this Kings team, as I mentioned, they've been very frustrating to me. Given up 4 goals in 3 of their last 4 games. But it's so funny because when the Kings do well, they absolutely shut down their opponent. Like, you take a look at their last few wins, right? So they beat Edmonton 4-0, New Jersey 2-1, Pitt 2-1, Columbus 5-1, Anaheim 3-2. Like, when this team has a good game, they're shutting teams down. They're not often going to win a game that the other team scores 3 or 4 goals. It's just not going to happen for them. So you mentioned the word playoff. I think that you're completely spot on with that. Playoff atmosphere, defensive battle right now, and 2 teams that have no problem with hard forechecking defensive styles of hockey. And we're still getting a pretty good number here for this total. So I'll agree with you. I'm on the under in this game. I'm not sure if it'll make my card, but I do think we'll see a defensive effort. One thing about this Vancouver team that does bother me, though, is, I'm almost tempted to take like the first period under, because it seems like this team can play like 50 minutes of defensive hockey and then just collapse. And same thing for LA. So you can never really trust them for a full game. I wish you could play first half, Brian, like you can in college and NBA. Halfway through the second period, I'm going to take the under 3.5 goals. Something like that would be pretty nice to be able to take. But that's it for me on this game. Small lean towards the under. And guys, before we jump into best bets, again, I want to remind you about that great deal we have going. 29% off here on Leap Day, 29th of February here. It's a great one. Anything site-wide for $69 or higher. You can use this deal on 29% off the rest of the NBA or NHL seasons, upcoming MLB season, and of course a 3-day or 7-day or full year package. And before I hand it off to Carmine for his best bet today on the show and what he has going for his clients, I do want to wish best of luck to Don Buster on his 5% play tonight. Buster's on a 9-2 run, I believe, in the NHL, and he has a spot that he really likes tonight in the NHL for a 5%. So Carmine cashed his on Tuesday. I cashed mine on Wednesday. Also, Brian cashed a basketball one on Wednesday. We're looking to see if Buster can cash his tonight in the NHL. So best of luck to Buster. Carm, over to you, my friend.
All right, so 4 plays up in the NHL tonight. I loaded it originally as a 2-pack. I loaded a couple plays yesterday because I thought it'd be a good idea to beat the market on a couple of plays price wise. So you can find those and a couple others, and I might add 1 or 2 more because it's a very good night in the NHL, and it's been a positive week so far. So let's see if we can just keep that going, especially the last couple of days. We got there with the Alexis Lafreniere one. He lands on 3 shots on goal, I believe, once again. And 12 of 13 times this guy has gone over his number. I don't know how he missed the boat on a majority of those, but he gets there. I'm not going with a shot prop, but I am going with a player prop. I'm going back to that Leafs game tonight. And I'm going with Austin Matthews to score. He's minus 130. Listen, the Leafs threw in an absolute dud off that 7-game win streak, returning home. During that 7-game win streak, Austin Matthews scored in 5 of the 7 games. He had 10 goals in those 7 games across the 5 that he did score in. He's minus 130 to score tonight. They're going to bounce back against this Arizona team, I have to believe, who have lost 13 straight games. So Austin Matthews, minus 130. Anytime goal scorer. I'm going to lay a little bit of vig. I always say you should get plus money on the goal scoring props. You're not going to get it with the guy who leads the league in goals, unfortunately. Minus 130 at home. 9 shots on goal from the top 2 lines of the Leafs against the Vegas Golden Knights. Of the 30 shots they registered, they were non-existent. They'll show up tonight. Austin Matthews, minus 130 to score. That's my show free play. Brian?
Tonight, we've got a big 4% play in the NHL. I don't put out too many 4s. Just about everything is 2s and 3s. But we do have a 4% going tonight. Looks like I'm going to have probably 2, maybe 3 overall plays in the NHL. And then I'll be putting out my my college basketball after the show. I do want to let everybody know that none of the 3 of us have lost a game on February 29th, at least the last 3 years. So there's something to say about tonight's card in that regard. So, but in all seriousness, I think we've got some good plays today. My best bet, as I talked about earlier, the New York Islanders at Detroit. Both teams are overplaying their advanced numbers the last 10 and 5-on-5. Islanders by just short of 5%, and the Red Wings by just over 8%. Red Wings are hot right now, winning 6 straight games. As you mentioned, Carmine, the victories came against Calgary, Seattle, Colorado, St. Louis, Chicago, and Washington. Washington's been playing pretty decent lately. Colorado has struggled as of late, but people will look at those games and say, well, none of those teams are really playing terrific hockey right now, but they outscored those clubs 28-10. So it wasn't that they were squeaking out these victories. They were winning by margins. And like I said before, I'm not a fan of the Islanders. Detroit has a net 54 goal advantage on the season between these 2 teams. Maybe something's up with this line. Maybe it is. But as you said earlier, you were going to put your money up and let them prove it. I agree. Detroit's the right side here. And this line, at least to me, is a gift. Continue to read, make sure that they've got other players coming back tonight. Nothing has changed, but I think Detroit's a really nice bargain, and that'll be my best bet on the show here.
I love it. I love it, Brian. I don't blame you one bit. I think I might get to the window with you on that one myself. Guys, off a nice winner last night. It wasn't easy. It was definitely quite fortunate at the end, but I will take it. We're back in action after just a small 2-game slate yesterday. That 5% winner was my only play yesterday. Be more involved tonight in the slate here, but I've got just 2 plays that stuck out to me as client plays so far. I'm sure more will be added to the card if I see fit. My best bet for the show, we're going to go with Carolina and Columbus up and over the total here, guys. And I understand Carolina's been playing some defensive hockey lately, old-fashioned Carolina hockey. But when you look at the games that the Columbus Blue Jackets have been involved in lately, whether it's the last 2 against New York, whether it's the few games before that, they have been giving up a ton of chances. Like yesterday, I'm watching that game against New York. I think New York could have had 2 or 3 goals by the end of the first period. They are relying so heavily on their goaltending. Elvis Merzlikins playing super well. This Hurricanes team, the way they play, they score goals in the dirty areas. They score goals from the point. And the Blue Jackets offense actually playing all right themselves, though. They're getting depth. They're getting production from all, top 6, top 9 guys. So I would say this game is going to be quite messy here. Second half of a back-to-back for Columbus as well. I'm going to go up and over 6.5, Columbus and Carolina. My best bet here today on Puck Time. And I noticed we went a little bit long here, some good hockey talk, but that's going to do it here for the show today on Puck Time. So thank you guys so much for watching. Always great having Bryan here with us. Always great chopping it up with my co-host Carmine. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.